So today we're going to be talking about dating, and I don't mean dating as in romantic. I mean dating as determining the age of something, giving it a date. So there's two types that we use to determine Earth's history. There's relative dating, which is an order or sequence known, but not the actual date of occurrence. So we know which one's younger or which one's older relative to another. And then absolute dating, determining by radioactive decay. They're like clocks and rocks. So it could tell you that something was 50 million years old. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But today we're going to be focusing on relative dating. Okay, and there are three main principles that you need to learn in order to figure out relative dating. There's the law of superposition, the law of original horizontality, and the law of cross-cutting relationships. Okay, they sound pretty tough, but they're not. So the first one, the law of superposition, basically means that the youngest layer of rock is on top and the oldest layer of rock is on the bottom. So the rock was laid down and then another layer went on top of that, which is younger, and another one went on top. And we'll go talk about that a little bit more in depth. The law of original horizontality means that all sedimentary rocks are deposited flat initially. And if you find them at an angle, then they've been moved. And the law of cross-cutting relationships is that an igneous rock or fault that cut across other rocks are the youngest. So the other rocks had to be there before they could get cut by anything. So this will make a little bit more sense as we go on. So the first one is the law of superposition. It's really a super law. If any undisturbed sequence of rock deposited in layers, the youngest layer is on the top and the oldest is on the bottom. And the ones in the middle will be sequenced that way. So this one down here that I'm pointing to is the oldest. And then this one is younger than the one below it, but older than the one on top of it. And then as you make your way up, this one is the youngest. Okay, so knowing that, we could look at these pictures from nature, and we would know that the rocks down here are going to be older than the rock up here. And on this one on the right, this layer right here is older than the layer above it right here. And this one is older than these layers up here. That's the law of superposition. So let's have you try it. Which layer is the youngest? So we have two pictures here. We have sand, gravel, clay, and limestone. Which layer of that is the youngest? And then here, so if you can guess on that one, and then this one we have letters telling us. So you'd have to figure out the youngest there. So let's look at this one first. What do you think is the youngest? If you said that sand is the youngest, then yay you see the blurry word sand there. And you know that because it's on the top, it's the youngest layer. And over here, layer V is the youngest because it's on the top. All right, awesome. Now, the next law, that was the law of superposition. The next principle or law is the principle of original horizontality. The sediments are usually deposited in horizontal layers. So whatever changed the rock happened after the rock was formed. So if there is a fold or tilt, it had to happen after it was laid down. So this fold happened after layers 1, 2, 3, and 4 were laid down because you can't bend or fold something that doesn't exist. So it had to have been laid down before. So the oldest layer would be number 1, the youngest is number 4, and the fold happened after layer 4 was laid down. Okay? So if you're looking at these two layers here, this is useful because this part right here is the oldest, and as it bends up, this is older than this rock right here. So you can see that this got folded, but the layers were laid down in this order before this fold happened. And here's a tilt on the rock on the right side. These layers here were laid down before the layers up here. Okay, so let's see if we can try that. That's the principle of original horizontality. All right, so which rock layer is the oldest? Now you can see these lines through here. This is just the way that they cut it to build this road, but the layers really are bent, and you can see the different colorations in there. So this is layer A, This is layer B, and there are more layers in there. I just labeled these C and D. Which one is the oldest? Can you figure it out? Of course you can, because you're brilliant. Layer D is the oldest. Fantastic. All right, so our last principle, we had the principle of superposition, original horizontality, and now it's the principle of cross-cutting relationships. Relationships sometimes cut the heart. No, I'm just kidding. This is cross-cutting. Anything that cuts a rock must be younger than the rock. So basically, you can't go across something that doesn't exist. So it has to be there before. There are three things that can cut across. It could be an igneous intrusion. That would make a good name for a rock band, excuse the pun. Igneous, it just basically means magma coming across, and that's what happened down here in this picture. Younger rock, as intruded, cuts across. So layers 1, 2, and 3 had to be there before layer 4, this igneous intrusion, could cut across it. Okay? Faults are younger than the rocks they displace. A fault is a break in the rock. That break can't happen if the rock isn't there. So the rock had to be there first for the break. The break is younger. And then erosion, layers get cut that are cut are older than the erosion. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is the cross-cutting relationships. This is the igneous intrusion. Here is a real life example. These are all these layers here, and you can see this igneous intrusion right here. And this is igneous rock. It was magma that just solidified in there. So this cutting across is younger than all of these layers that are there. And the same goes for this. This is a magma chamber that went across, and this was magma that seeped in and then it hardened. So this layer, this intrusion here, or this intrusion, is younger than what it's cutting across. Another example are the faults. Okay. So anything that cuts a rock must be younger than that rock. So here, these layers all were laid down. They at one time all lined up. The fault happened after that. And you can see here, here's a perfect example. If you're looking on the picture at the right, you see this white line going across here. At one time, they all lined up. And then the fault moved, so the fault is younger than this layer that was cut through. Okay? And our last example is the cross-cutting of erosion. So here, layers getting cut are older than the erosion. So these layers were laid down. Some erosion takes place. You can't erode something that didn't exist. So it had to be there first. So these layers are older than the erosion that took place. The erosion happened after they were laid down. All right, I hope you understand those 3 laws of geology that will help us with relative dating.